All right, so now we have some more factoring completely problems. If you forgot about the quiz, maybe go back to the quiz questions because we already went over these. Factor. Well, they want you to factor, and the word completely should say to you there's something that everything has in common. There's a common factor that you need to factor out first. So problems like these are 2x squared, let's see, minus 4x, plus, let's do 30, plus 30. So what do they all have in common? It should be pretty obvious that there's a 2. That all of these have in common. 2 can be divided by 2, negative 4 can be divided by 2, 30 can be divided by 2. So pull that factor out to the front, okay? And this is what I mean. If you're pulling it out to the front, I want it so that when you distribute it in, it makes sense. So in the end, you want this to be the same thing. So you pull out the 2, you have x squared. You pull out the 2 from this, you have negative 2x. And then you pull out the 2 from the 30 and you have 15. This means when you distribute it back in, okay, distribution is the opposite of factoring. Factoring is the opposite of distribution. When you distribute it back in, you're going to say, oh, 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times negative 2x is negative 4x. And then 2 times 15 is 30. It's the opposite. You're pulling it out to the front so that if you wanted to, you could factor it back in. These are the same thing. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that that's what it meant to factor out that 2. Okay, now that you've factored out the 2, I think I made a mistake here. This should be a negative. All right. This is a negative. So now that you've factored out this 2, you need to factor even further. You need to factor completely. That means factoring this inside part. Okay. This is already factored out, but we need to factor the inside part. And if you need help with factoring still, this first term goes in that box, and then the last term goes in this box. And you make a diamond where the top part is negative 15x squared that you get from multiplying this diagonal. And the other diagonal should add to negative 2x. That's our middle term. We wanted to add to that. So you're trying to think of two things that multiply to 15, rather negative 15x squared, and add to negative 2x. Okay. Sometimes it helps me to write it out. What are all the ways of writing 15? You could write it as 1 times 15. You could write it as 3 times 5. You could write it as, can it go 4? No, 2? No, it's an odd number. That's it, unless I'm not sure. So 1 and 15, is that ever somehow going to add to negative 2? Probably not, but you will have luck with 3x and 5x. You just have to pick which one's negative. Which one is going to give you more negatives so that you have a negative 2 down here? Negative 5x. So let's go negative 5x and 3x. Okay, 15, or rather negative 15 and negative 5, they have in common a negative 5. And then in order to get this x squared, it's an x by x. And then to get the 15, you would need to multiply 5 by 3, which makes sense because it's 3x, which is 3 times this x this way. Okay, so you have 2 times the length, which is x plus 3, times the width, which is x minus 5. This is written as a product instead of a sum. It's the product of two factors. And that's it. That's what it means to factor completely. I'm going to give you one more problem to practice with. So let's do 3x squared minus 12. I think that's the one on the review sheet. 3x squared minus 12. Try it on your own. Try factoring something else out. Try it on your own first.